good morning, or good afternoon. Welcome to another week of We the People. We have a very special guest today that I'm excited to get to, but as you know, Hyacinth has to do her Zumba.
Yeah, I got to do my little
so-
announcement. Hello,
so-
everyone. It's Monday, and it's a beautiful day out. Wow, isn't it actually spring? I hope you all enjoying it. You know, it's time to get out and start doing the raking of the leaves and start putting the bulbs in and doing all these little
Better
exciting
put your
things.
bulbs in by now, otherwise they ain't coming up this spring. But I think tomorrow we're
Well,
having a blizzard.
The bulbs are in already. It's just a matter of now you have to shake the seeds so they can grow up so you can plant them. That's what I do. I don't usually buy new seeds. I usually redo mine. So yeah, so I think it's a really wonderful day out. So again, it's Monday, and at the Senior Wellness Center at 830 Maple Avenue, there's good stuff happening there. Today was Volunteer Appreciation Day, which was very nice. They had pizza and everything there. So that was really great. We always have to show our volunteers how appreciative we are of them and stuff like that. As usual, tomorrow is Wednesday. So Wednesday is bingo. And also there's going to be the health center, Charter Oak Health Center and stuff like that, birthdays and stuff. Knitting class going in on Friday. Let's see, Tuesday, tomorrow is Tuesday, there's movie with Roland, and also with nail painting if you want to get your nails done and stuff like that. As usual, we do have the ceramics and all those workout exercises. As a matter of fact, I did my exercise this morning, you know. I'm telling you, you have to go there and start doing some exercise.
I went yesterday.
Where?
I came home from the Yukon parade. I said, it's a good day to take my bicycle out, go for a
Oh,
quick
wow,
bike ride.
that's great.
So I come home, I had a brand new mountain bike I bought last year, but the tires were flat. So I take it out, I get the compressor down in the basement running, I bring the hose up out into the parking lot so I can blow the tires up. Get it going, putting air in, I see the tire getting bigger and bigger. And
Hope you didn't overinflate it.
I figured I was getting close enough, so I went to try to take the nozzle from the compressor off of the stem, and I'm like, it's not
And you
covered.
broke it off.
All of a sudden, I see the edge of the tire just bigger and bigger and bigger. Boom! It sounded like a bomb went off. So now today I have to go get a new tube for the bicycle so I can ride
Yeah,
it.
you can't overinflate it.
And I actually felt not depressed, but I felt bad afterwards that I couldn't go for a bike ride because I was looking forward to it.
Yeah, well,
I had my helmet out and everything.
You could
Ready
go
to
walking though. I mean, I went walking, but
That's
this
too much
morning I
exercise.
actually did my bicycle workout, which is very good. It's good for your abs and all that. And then we go upstairs and we do some dance stretching and stuff like that. So it's really good. I mean, so come on over.
Okay.
Judge, if you ever want to come over and do some exercise, that's good too.
I said, do I look like I do a lot of exercise?
Well, you know what? It keeps you young, fit, and healthy. That's all I have to say. So if you're really interested, come to 830 Maple Avenue. We can show you around and see.
Okay.
So we have such a beautiful
good
center.
spot to meet people too.
Yeah, good spot. Well, it depends on who you want to meet anyway.
Well, last week was another good week. You had your NRZ meeting, very
Oh,
well
yeah?
attended. We had a little hiccup in the road. When
Yeah,
the,
but that's okay.
The
It
room
works
wasn't
out
unlocked,
well.
but eventually they unlocked it.
Yeah, we were willing to go to church.
I think a very good presentation by Adam Cloud.
Yeah, it was well.
Put a lot of things into perspective.
I think it's really important. To me, it's very important for the resident to understand what's really going on in the city. And most times they do not know unless you bring these people to your community to tell what's really happening so they can be aware, enlightened about what's really actually happening. Because you're right, most of them do not know what's going on.
Well, and not that Adam would come to us and say anything that wasn't true, but he knows you and I dig into this stuff and we know what we're looking at. So he comes and he gives us, your group, the honest, I'm sure he does it to every group he speaks to, but gives you the honest assessment of what's going on, where the bond rating is, what's being done with the budget. So that was a good meeting.
Anyway, so again, I want to just mention people, next Monday, the Charter Oak van will be at 830 Maple Avenue. Okay, so you need to go there if you need any help. We also have the well care, stuff like that. And by the way, May, I know it's April, but May 2nd, that's the day we're going to do our community cleanup.
Oh.
And I'm hoping and keeping my fingers crossed that there won't be any rain. I'm going to be looking for volunteers to come in and help.
Hot dogs and hamburgers.
Yeah, we'll have a cookout afterwards, and I'm hoping if there's any youngster out there that wants to get involved, I'm putting a call to Trinity to see if I can get some of their kids to come in and help us with that. And I've talked to
Maybe
somebody
we can
else.
get Trinity's new president there.
Well,
I bet
no.
you she would.
Yeah, maybe she could send her kids. So we're gonna do some community cleanup, and I gotta say, Kevin, on Friday I took a little walk, just a little bit of walk to show the planning and zoning people what I'm looking at every day and how are they going to address these issues of the enforcement of the laws and the rules that we have. Now, how do you give somebody
enforcement doesn't have time to look at. They're all up on Scarborough Street.
I know, but they're
the
wasting
South
their
End,
time.
Berry Square means nothing.
Yeah, okay, but they're wasting their time. They need to get into the real act here. We have to get up every day and look at the dirty place that. How do you give somebody
and
permission?
Some of that you've been complaining about for years.
Yeah,
and it's always, we don't have the money, we don't have the people, we can't enforce zoning
You
laws.
need to have one person to enforce your zoning. That should be the full-time job of that person, to go around and enforce all those, ordinance that we say we have in books. And what's the sense of putting all these ordinance and books and you never do anything about them anyway?
It comes down to a will to do it.
It goes down to
if you have the will,
goes to
you'll
the
find
fact
a way to
of leadership. Who is in charge of making sure that these people are doing their jobs? That is where we are breaking down completely.
You just gave me a great segue there.
All right. Okay.
Let's move into leadership.
So anyway, all right then. Well, I suppose that's it for now on the announcement. I will have some more next week.
You forgot Friday afternoon happy hour, open bar at the Senior Center.
Where is it going to be?
At the Senior Center.
No, we have breakfast. No,
okay.
that's going to be at the 24th. We're having breakfast 8:30.
Okay, well let's get right into it here.
Okay, Kevin. Okay, all right. Okay.
It's an interesting
season
scenario for the mayoral race.
Yes,
Hartford.
we're so excited that we have choices.
One of the things with the charter change for strong mayor is that it was supposed to attract more qualified candidates to get into politics and run the city. This year, we're definitely getting that.
Yep, I'm very excited about
that. We have
that.
the incumbent, Mayor Segura. Then we've got Luke Bronin, who was an aide to Governor Malloy. John Gale, who's a long-time attorney. And now Friday,
and you also have our, what's his name, Cruz.
Well, that's
Joel
another
Cruz.
issue, working family.
Well, he's still a.
He raised $4,800.
It doesn't matter.
He's already
He's still
spent
running.
almost $10,000.
It doesn't matter. He's still there.
But he'd
you
be
can't
great.
ignore him.
He'd be great in the mayor's office because he has the proper mindset for the budget.
Well, then that's
Spend
something.
double of what you raise.
Then that's something to talk about. But we can't just ignore him. He's a person that we need to also
He's a legitimate
recognize.
candidate.
Yes.
So, whether I support him or I think he's going anywhere or not.
It's not
he's
up
still
to
a
you.
candidate.
Yeah.
Friday, the whole scenario of the mayor's race changed even more for the positive. And we have the reason why he's sitting here with us. Bob Killian, I keep calling him Judge, but he says he's retired now, call him Bob. Retired after 31 years as Hartford's probate
judge, yeah.
Dealt with over 51,000 families during that time, over 10,000 kids that were removed or placed.
Well, maybe we should let him talk about all that.
We
you
will,
just want to introduce him as.
And I'm getting to that. So anyways, it's put another spin on the mayoral campaign, and another very qualified candidate. But let me ask you, why? Most people would say.
Well, hello there, hello there, Bob. How you doing?
Terrific.
Good to see you this morning.
That's the question my wife asks all the time. Why?
It's like, why? You had a 30-year career. Most people are looking to retire, slow down, head to Florida
Travel.
in the winter. And you're looking to take on almost a $50 million deficit of budget. A city that, for all intents and purposes, is somewhat dysfunctional.
Yeah, so sinking ship.
Why do you think why are you getting into this?
Because there's a $50 million deficit and the city is dysfunctional. And unless something changes, we're going to be the next Detroit.
Unless somebody change it, we're going to be, of course.
So I've lived here all my life, a third generation, born and bred in Hartford, except for my time in college and law school. Hartford's in trouble.
Yes, it is.
And it's not going to get out of trouble with the mindset of the people who are running City Hall right now. Not just the mayor, but his colleagues on the city council, most of whom have gone along with everything that the mayor's talking about doing. They're not bad people. They don't want bad things for Hartford. but I don't think they understand what Hartford is and what it has to do to turn itself around. We're not going to turn ourselves around without a lot of help from the state. We're not going to turn ourselves around unless we decide that when we do get money, we're going to be careful and thoughtful stewards of the money that comes into the city coffers. You know, we're going to have a baseball stadium, and we're going to pay for it for the next 26 years, and it's going to cost us several $1 million a year. Some people think as high as $5 million a year to support it, and it's not going to generate any taxes. We can't do that sort of thing. They tell me that the idea is to get development north of I-84 in downtown Hartford. Don't know. And there's nothing wrong with development, but if we do it with our money, we turn an asset, the land, into a liability, a $60 million bond debt. And that's not the way we're going to get out of the mess that we're in. They tell me that the purpose is to attract new, young, bright, able people to downtown Hartford, and I salute that idea. That's what we did when we talked about converting or assisting in the conversion of commercial office buildings that were empty into housing that sounds to me is going to be filled up in the not too distant future as these apartments come online. There's a buzz about that, and that's good. Once they fill up, we create a market for private dollars to come in and build apartments north of I-84. We won't have the land to build them on anymore.
No, because it'll be all a baseball
field. Be a baseball
field.
field.
Concrete, yeah.
So someone's got to say enough. Someone's got to say, look, Hartford, there's 125,000 people who live here. We will welcome with open arms 2,000 or 3,000 new people to downtown Hartford, but not at the expense and not with the investment from the 125,000 who already live here by choice or necessity. So I drive around. I've lived in Hartford all my life. I've lived in Sisson Avenue, Montague Street, Beacon Street. Now I live on Bloomfield Avenue. So I've lived in virtually every part of the city. And I have never seen as many problems in the neighborhoods as I see right now.
Yep.
And it runs the gamut.
It's like it's like the neighborhoods are forgotten. You know, there's so much focus in downtown, and there's no reason why a government cannot focus on a downtown, but focus on your neighborhood, because your neighborhood is your hub of your city. And when you lose that, when everybody's thinking, well, they don't care about us, they're not doing anything for us. I mean, we didn't ask for this big $60 million or more baseball field. I can understand if we're even given the opportunity to go to the election booth and say, yes, we want this thing, but we were ignored. We are not being listened to.
Well, I don't think it ever would have made it to a referendum. That's the whole reason it never went to one, and they found every reason with the stadium authority and everything else to avoid giving us the opportunity to vote.
That is not good government. When you don't listen to us, we put you there.
It's not what a democracy is all
They
about.
went further. They didn't even tell us what they were doing.
Exactly.
It was done in the dark of night.
Secret.
And government that isn't transparent is bad government.
Bad government.
Even if they do good
all
things.
the way around. All the way around.
Do you think city government and City Hall has lost sight of the plight of a lot of people that live in our neighborhoods?
Yes.
As to what the residents face day in and day out?
I think they're panicking. I think that they are scrambling for an answer. And when people scramble for an answer, they engage in what I call magical thinking. They come up with ideas that they think are going to address the problem, but they don't really totally understand the problem.
Yeah.
The single biggest problem in Hartford is something we don't have a lot of control on, and that's the fact that the state of Connecticut says the only way, significant way we can raise money is through the property tax.
Right.
And in Hartford, we have
Look at the property
about
tax.
17 square miles of land, some more river land that we don't build much on, and we talk about half of that being off the tax rolls because it's parkland, it's hospitals, it's churches, government buildings, and schools. So we're talking about 8.5 miles of land that have to support a city of 125 million.
With so much demand.
and with demand that exceeds what any other municipality in Connecticut has, and you just can't do it. So
But
there's a lot of things we can do, but you can't support the city of Hartford just on that 8.5 miles.
But do you think we're taken seriously when we go to the Capitol and ask for help because of the way we've spent their help in the past?
I don't think the people at the Capitol think we're good stewards of the money they give us. And that's going to be all the clearer in the next couple of months when we see what could be a very disastrous situation develop with our unfunded bond, our pension commitment. And that's serious business. We have a contract with our employees. The contract says you work long enough, you get a pension, and our job is to make sure when you get that pension, the money's there.
It's there.
And I gotta tell you, and I've gotta tell them, because I'm not gonna lie to anybody, I wanna change some of that pension. I wanna change some of the ways those pensions are funded, not funded, but paid in for future employees.
And when you hear that clapping, that means Trish likes what you're saying.
Trish.
But also,
right on, Trish.
But also looking at how we're giving away the city, we have to be smart enough not to give away the city when we do a contract, so we can live up to it.
Absolutely. I mean, our contracts are more generous, not so much in terms of the dollar amount as they are in when you can collect, what you can do. I want to see a change. I want to see one change right away. I'd like to see a change in how we pay pensions to elected and appointed senior officials. Currently, we have a pension that says that you work for us for so many years and you get, based on the years of service, a guaranteed return, a fixed amount from the city every month. I want to change that. I'd like to see, for these one category of people, I'd like to see a 401k type pension, where the city puts a fixed contribution
And you
in,
put too.
and you can match it, or you can even exceed it, and it goes in, it has all the protections of a pension, it's not reachable in bankruptcy. When you leave the city, you take it with you, you go someplace else, but the city has no more obligation to you. It would do two things. It will cost less in the long run.
That's a good idea, excellent.
But more importantly, it won't encourage people to stay and hang on to their senior jobs as long as they possibly can, and then when they're near the end of their elected time, to switch over to a civil service job and get credit toward a pension based on the new salary for all the work they did before.
Yeah.
But even like for the council, and it's a very small part of our obligation, but council people, I think, get a pension after 6 years.
6 years.
That's unheard of, for a part-time job.
A guaranteed health benefit.
For life.
For life.
Yeah.
For them and their spouse, I believe.
Isn't that?
That's
What other place do something like this?
leadership is saying that I'm going to take the first step to lead. And part of the leadership here, because we're going to have to ask other people to consider some give backs on pensions. But part of the first step is to say, I'll take the first hit.
Well, that's being responsible. But one of the other, and I don't want to get into a bash Pedro session, but one of the things that Mayor Segura has been widely criticized for is his choice of department heads and his lack of retention for department heads. So many of our city departments have been in flux for the last 4 years. Finance, police, we saw an issue there where they went outside to hire a consultant and they eventually gave the job to the person who had been there acting for months. During one of the
Public Works Department is acting.
well, it's still acting. Finance is acting. HR, I think, is a regular department head now. But even during part of this, when we were having all the issues with the purchasing cards, the city credit cards, and at an audit commission meeting, the COO testified that, oh, we found all the missing receipts. They were in a shoebox on the shelf in the finance office. Now that's just reckless to run an operation like that. And I'll say it instead of putting you on the spot to say it, but it's reckless. What are your thoughts on getting more
Accountability.
permanent accountability being one of the big things, but also getting people that are going to function properly, stay here, do their jobs, and I hate to say it, but put the city of Hartford first. You know, that's what we need is more people who love the city and have a commitment to the city. And some of them, miraculously, maybe even live here, you know. And I think that's what we're lacking right now.
Yes.
There was a question in there somewhere.
Yeah, and there's going to be an answer here somewhere too, Kevin. Let me go back a little bit to when I took over the probate court. It was in a disastrous state. My predecessor resigned the morning he was going to be impeached by the Connecticut General Assembly. It was a foregone conclusion that he was going to be impeached. Everybody told me, a couple of the people from the court, a couple of staff people were indicted and then went to prison. Everybody told me that I should fire everybody and start new. And I didn't. Instead, I got everybody in the room, closed the doors so it was just us. And I said, look, some of you have been here a long time. I'm not going to fire anybody for 6 months. And you'll get to know me and how I operate. I'll get to know you and how you operate. There's only one rule I'm going to put in place that will lead me to fire you prior to the 6 months. And that's if you walk by the front counter and there's someone standing there, you have to say a simple sentence. Are you being helped? And you know, that was not always the way. They had been in the trenches. They felt the problems of this horrible problem that was swirling around the court, even though they weren't the responsible parties. And they started doing it. I do it. I told them, I promise them, I'll do it anytime I walk by the front counter. And they.
You're listening to Tony Terzi. It's Terzi Talk here on the Talk of Connecticut, AM 1360, 1470,
the We
610,
the People
and
Hartford
1240.
segment of the show brought to you by Kevin Brookman. We have Kevin Brookman in studio, and for some of you folks who are not out, who are not from the Hartford area, still a very good read. This is a guy who got involved in the city of Hartford's business, for lack of a better term, because he is a proud resident of Hartford. He has his business in Hartford, and some years ago, during the scandal that brought down former Mayor Eddie Perez, he started really getting involved. As he told us during the first half hour of the show, the state's attorney's office got in touch with him, wanted to talk to him about who his contacts were. His good friend Len Bestoff, who was at Channel 3 and now is at NBC Connecticut as an investigative reporter, was the impetus for him to start this We the People Hartford blog, because he said, you will not have to reveal your sources. You'll be protected by laws that protect journalists if you have a blog. Otherwise, you're exposed. And so he has started this blog. How long have you had the blog, Kevin?
I don't know, probably 5-6 years now.
Okay. It's wethepeoplehartford.com or wethepeoplehartford.blogspot. And one of the entries you had yesterday, Kevin, can we get a package deal? Explain what that post was about.
That was kind of also an indirect jab at the mayor, because when we were looking for a police chief, we hired an outside consulting firm, $75,000 for these outside consultants to come in and find a police chief for us. And they brought back 3 candidates. We already had the perfect candidate in Chief Ravella. Chief Ravella came in basically through the governor's office. When the governor told State's Attorney Kevin Kane the violence was out of control, shootings were out of control. My understanding is the two of them had a meeting in the governor's office, and the governor told Kevin Kane, do something about this. And that's where Kevin Kane took Chief Ravella, who at the time was the chief inspector for the state's attorney's office, and assigned him to put a task force together of state and municipal police officers. Some towns around Hartford bought into it. The state police, corrections, probation, parole. They all started this shooting task force, which was very successful and continues to be very successful in Hartford for reducing gun violence. We spent $75,000 for a search firm. One of the people they brought to us was a chief from, I don't know if it was from Indianapolis or the Indianapolis area, who had just been arrested on a DUI.
Excellent.
And this is a guy, he wants to come in to Hartford to be chief. And there were other issues with the other candidates they brought forward. Eventually, they went ahead and promoted Chief Ravella to the permanent chief anyways. So that was $75,000 we threw out the window. Now we're going outside to find an assistant chief for the fire department. There's plenty of capable people within the department. And I think that's a failure of Chief Huertas. If you're not mentoring your people to come up through the ranks and take over leadership roles, something's wrong. You know, anybody we bring in from the outside is going to have a learning curve of probably at least a year or more of who the players are in the department, how it operates, you know, learning the city, learning the people. It just seems like a waste of money when we have people that are capable. Dan Nolan being one of them. Yeah, he's a friend of mine, and I, speak out for him. When he was wrongfully fired, that was a big issue on the blog, and I think that was one of the things that brought about its notoriety was the constant updates on Dan Nolan's case.
Explain that for people who don't know about his case.
Oh, geez, you're pushing my mind here to think back to what it actually was. But Dan Nolan has always been involved, and I don't want to sound like his propaganda manager here, but Dan Nolan has always been involved in charitable organization, whether it's Leah's Foundation, different things for leukemia, things like that, as well as mentoring a lot of young disabled people. That's probably the wrong term, but he's a very charitable person. When the city didn't like some of the things he was doing, because as you can hear when he called in, he's very outspoken. He says what's on his mind, and you know where he stands. There's no wishy-washy.
Well, what is not to like about doing charitable work? I'm not sure.
That was the impetus that they used to get rid of him, is that he was putting pressure on academy recruits to get involved in charity organizations, and he would give them extra points at the academy if they were doing things for charity.
Makes you a well-rounded person.
You would think.
Are you kidding me?
That was the reason they used to terminate him, is that he was putting undue pressure on recruits in the academy and using his position for, I guess, personal gain because...
because the charities don't get the money he gets.
It also made him look better that he was a leader and getting people to be involved. So
God forbid you should try to create a total human being.
But the city terminated him under Eddie Perez once again. The main reason was that Dan Nolan. See, the Hartford Fire Department is also a spot where you can push people through that are politically connected through the academy. You can't do that in the police department because there's too many state laws that require the background checks, polygraphs, all the training, all the things that have to be done before you can be hired as a police officer. None of that exists for the fire department. If you pass the academy and you get certified, you're in. In the police department, if you've got any arrests, any drug issues, things like that show up in a polygraph, you're washed out. So anyways, Dan had people that were politically connected that were being shoved through the fire academy. One of them was her first day of training. She showed up and they were told they have to do PT. Now,
What's PT?
Physical training.
Yeah.
Jogging, running, things like that. Again, God forbid we make sure that our firefighters are in shape.
Right.
But anyways, I believe she was connected to a union, a high-ranking union member.
Okay.
And the first day of training, Dan told her she had to do this, this, and this, and she says, "No, I don't." And he said, "What?" And she says, "I've already been told I don't have to." And then she came up and said she was like 5 or 6 months pregnant. Now, how are you going to send a pregnant person into the fire tower where they burn things to teach you how to go into smoky buildings?
Right.
That's just putting somebody in danger. It's reckless.
Right.
So he apparently, I think he failed her out of the academy because she couldn't do everything. And then there was a huge issue that, he can't do that. And that's when the whole mess started, that he was removing people from the fire academy that weren't qualified to be there in the first place. And it's like, God forbid, we can't allow this in Hartford. We need to get rid of him. So they fired him because he was the roadblock in the way of these politically connected hires. It eventually went through the labor board, through the courts, and the city was ordered to give him his job back.
How long did it take?
Oh, it was a while. He was out of work well over a year, I believe.
Did he get back pay?
Well, the other thing about Dan is he's a military veteran for the United States, and I believe during some of this time he was on deployment in either Iraq or Afghanistan. And I think he may still be battling for some of that back pay that the city never came forward that he was supposed to get. But it's just, it's indicative of the way the city of Hartford works. You would think you would be, praising employees like that are making the city look in a positive light to people. Okay, here's a guy who volunteers for the military. He's putting his life in danger in Iraq, and he comes back here and we mess with him. What does that say about, the way you, and they're still doing it. There's a firefighter now that was in the Air Guard and should have been considered for a promotion, I believe, to an engine driver, and I know I'm getting the terms wrong, but they passed him over because he was in the military, didn't allow him to take a test, which they're required to under federal law. You can't hold somebody back because they're on deployment. You have to give them the same opportunities, and the city of Hartford doesn't do that.
When did that happen? When did they pass over him? Was this a year ago?
No, this is within the last couple months. He contacted me, so it's still ongoing.
Did you write about it?
I haven't as of yet because I'm still trying to gather documents and things like that. That's the other part. Is the city of Hartford, and I don't want to focus on the fire department here.
No.
But I got a call a few weeks ago that.
Hold on just one sec. By the way, we are speaking, for those of you just tuning in, Kevin Brookman, who's got his finger on the pulse of Hartford. He writes a blog called We the People Hartford. So you can find it either wethepeoplehartford.com or wethepeoplehartford.blogspot. Continue.
So anyways, last year, or about a year ago, we bought a brand new piece of fire apparatus in Hartford. $750,000 for it. Ladder 6, which is based on Main Street in downtown Hartford. Now, you would think your ladder truck for downtown is a crucial piece of equipment. Apparently, anytime the back bucket on the ladder is worked on, there's a vendor that has to come in and x-ray it because you're putting firefighters a couple hundred feet up in the air and you want to make sure everything is put back together right. So this vendor has to come in and x-ray it. There was some damage to it several months ago. It was up at what they call City Yard, the repair garage up on Jennings Road. It was up at City Yard being fixed, and then it came time to have it x-rayed, and the vendor wouldn't come out to x-ray it because the city hadn't paid his bills. So it sat up there for probably at least 3 or 4 months, not being used. A brand new $750,000 piece of equipment sat up at City Yard because the vendor wouldn't come x-ray it. Somebody called me about it. I FOI'd all the repair documents, the bills to the vendor, which the city still hasn't given to me, which is a violation. But miraculously, last weekend, Ladder 6 comes back on the line. The bill has been paid, and the ladder truck is back out there. Now, how does a city that just agrees to spend millions of dollars on a baseball stadium and can't find, what could it be, a couple thousand for the vendor to come out and x-ray this ladder truck? It's just reckless.
That's a good segue that we're going to hold for just a second. We're going to take a time out with Kevin Brookman. We the People Hartford blog. We are going to talk about that baseball stadium, his thoughts about it, what it will or won't do for the city of Hartford. If you have any thoughts, if you have read Kevin's blog and you either agree or disagree, we want to hear from you. 888-574-2723, 888-574-2723. This is Tersey Talk.
You're listening to Tony Tersey. It's Tersey Talk here on the Talk of Connecticut. AM 1360, 1470, 610, and 1240.
We are back here on Tersey Talk at 8:48. 12 minutes left in this hour. Love to hear from you. Love to have you speak with Kevin Brookman. We the People Hartford blog. He started several years ago on the advice of his good friend Len Bestoff, formerly of Channel 3, now with NBC Connecticut, of course, heading up their troubleshooters unit over there. Now, the stadium in Hartford, what sort of issues do you have with that? And I know we have less time than you probably need.
Can we get another hour?
Yeah.
I love baseball. I love the Rockcats. I've gone out there with my nephews. We've tailgated in the parking lot before games. I really want to see it succeed in Hartford. I think it'll be good for the city. But I just don't see it happening. We've got the $4.5 million that we're going to have to pay every year is money we don't have. I got a call the other day that we balanced the city's budget last year by selling a parking garage to the state. And apparently the state, they were supposed to close on it the other day. The state pulled out of the closing because of discrepancies they found somewhere in the deal. So now that is probably another $50 million hole in the city's budget unless the state comes back to the table and eventually does close. We've got so much going on in this city that, we really should be using the money responsibly instead of going out and stealing a baseball stadium from another city that really needs it as much as we do. And it was all just shoved through so quick. Nobody can still give you solid numbers of where we stand, what's going to happen, what the costs are. It's just been like rush. Apparently last month at the meeting of the Capital Region Development Authority, the developer said that the company that was in negotiations for the supermarket has pulled out. So apparently there's not a supermarket on the planning stages of it now either, which for that project to work, it's all got to come together. Just a baseball stadium by itself isn't going to do it. It needs the housing. It needs the retail. It needs the market, which Hartford sorely needs. We need the whole project to come together, but it's got to be responsibly done so it benefits both the city and its residents, not just the political legacy of a mayor that's running for re-election and needs to say, I did something.
Yeah. We've got Yukon coming downtown. We've got Front Street coming to life. Some of the vacant buildings being turned into many apartments. Talk of whether or not there should be I still call it the Civic Center, brand new XL Center. There are lots of issues on the plate. I said plate. Caviar. Take over from there, my friend.
That was another big deal. I had gotten a phone call from somebody saying, you need to FOI the mayor's credit card receipts for New Year's Eve of, 3 years ago, I think it was. And they didn't say much more than that. They said, just push, FOI his credit card receipts and you'll see. And when I got the credit card receipts for him and his chief of staff, there was the charges to Max downtown for rack of lamb, caviar, champagne, all on New Year's Eve.
On taxpayers' dime.
On taxpayers' dime, yeah. And that turned into a big deal. And then eventually after they got caught, this was New Year's Eve, January. In February, the mayor paid back the city. Once he knew that I had the documents and he was nailed, he paid the city back for the dinner.
Which was how much, Kevin?
It was like almost
$800.
$800 yeah, for everything. Which, whether it's $50 or $800, that's money you're taking from the people of Hartford. There's people in Hartford that don't know where their next meal's coming from, but they still have to pay the taxes on their car at 70 some odd mils. They still have to pay, their electric, their heating bills, and they're struggling to get by. And here we are, the mayor of the capital city and his chief of staff and corporation counsel are out eating caviar and drinking champagne on the backs of the taxpayers. That's just immoral. It's immoral and unconscionable that they would even consider doing that. And then as it turns out, Sandra Key Borges had done basically something very similar when she was back during Mayor Mike's years, 10, 12 years ago.
She's city manager.
She was city manager at the time. And after a council meeting, they went to Carbone's in the South End, and she was buying, as it turns out, they were shots at the time called buttery nipples or slippery nipples. They were out pounding down these shots and paid for them on a city credit card. So she was nailed once for it, and now a second time she did it under Pedro Segura. It's like the people in the mayor's inner circle, it's almost like they just go out of their way to embarrass him and think of what can we do next to make him look like an idiot in the media. And it happens almost daily.
Pedro wins re-election or not?
Oh, God, if there's a God, not. I just don't think we can survive another 4 years under him.
Former judge. running?
He hasn't announced yet.
Okay.
Judge Killian is Hartford's probate judge until, I believe, April 10th.
Okay, yeah, not former.
And then I think you'll see an announcement coming out of him quickly at that point that he's going to run for mayor.
What you wrote about him, you put some of his information on your blog. Tell us a little bit about Judge Killian.
I've just met him recently, so I really don't know him. I've heard him speak a couple times, and very impressive public speaker, very motivational. What Hartford needs right now is a cheerleader. We need a reincarnation of Mayor Mike. Mayor Mike wasn't strong mayor, but he made people feel good about Hartford. If he went to a suburb, people would say, "Oh, the mayor was here last night. We met him. What a nice guy, whatever." That's what Hartford needs again. We need somebody who can walk into the governor's office, have a decent relationship, not adversarial, but that can actually treat each other with respect, get things done. We need a mayor that can work with the legislature and get things done. We need a mayor that can relate to the people in the city of Hartford. The Valentine's Day weekend, so probably would have been the 15th of Sunday. Mm-hmm. We had that real bad windstorm and blizzard type storm.
Yes.
I'm right on Sigourney Street, so I was in my kitchen cooking breakfast, and I look out, and here's a woman that I would say elderly. I don't know how old she was. She was walking south on Sigourney Street, headed toward Farmington, wrapped in like a comforter, just to keep her warm. And I don't know where she was headed. I don't know whether she was headed to the bus stop, the grocery store, whatever. Mm-hmm. But that's the reality of a lot of residents in Hartford. They have to survive. They do whatever they have to do to survive. They don't have the luxury of, the big homes on Terry Road or Scarborough Street, whatever. They're out there struggling to get by, and they need a mayor that understands the struggles. And, I talked to a business owner the other day. I said, has anybody from the city ever come in and said, what can we do to help you grow your business, to help your business thrive? He said, I've never seen anybody from the city come in my front door. And that's sad.
And he's probably been in business a long time.
It's a well-known downtown business. It's been around for years. If I told you the name, you'd realize it. But it's just, we have to get a clue of what people are going through day in and day out there and try to make their lives easier.
Take a call before we go to the top of the hour news. Now, what are your plans for the rest of the day? Are you fairly open? Yeah. Okay. You want to stay after the top of the hour news?
If you want me,
that'd be all right. Yeah. Okay. Tom from Meriden on line 2 this morning. Tom, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, what's cooking?
Hey, this is Tom from Meriden. How are you?
Good.
I just enjoy your show, enjoying your guest, and I just wanted to say that none of this stuff is surprising. It's common. Glad this guy is out there finding things out, and they're completely honest, and suddenly their integrity returns when they've been caught.
Yeah, right.
And, this woman, Borges, I don't know who she is because I'm from Meriden, but Meriden has its own problems, as you know, with the police and all that stuff, and cover up with that.
Sure.
We can go on and on about the corruption there, but this woman, how she's still in state government is beyond me, or town government is beyond me. Yeah. She should have been pushed out. She's a crook.
Well, that's and that's part of it. After they get caught, like she recently, this week after the whole nepotism issue came up, that she's hired her son, all these people that are related to her. She goes to the ethics commission and asks for an opinion on whether it's proper. Now, as the city's attorney, shouldn't you have a pretty good conscience? You can sit back and say, maybe I should look. This doesn't pass the smell test. Let me look back and, tell my relatives, geez, as much as I'd like to help you, it's not going to look good. Go out to the mall and find a job, or go to a construction company, find a job. But I can't bring you into City Hall. Do you really need to ask the ethics commission if that's proper?
Well, no, she knows that it's not. And here's the entire issue. The issue with that is, and the reason she's doing it is because she's always done what she's wanted to do when she's wanting to do it, and gotten away with it. She knows damn well that it's completely unethical.
Yeah, exactly.
But as you said, she's just doing it. She's making appearances, and she's making a fool out of herself in the process, by the way.
You're listening to Tony Tersey. It's Tersey Talk, here on the Talk of Connecticut. AM 1360, 1470, 610, and 1240.
Funding allocated for that to get moving along?
the funding of the dikes and the flood control system has been an issue, and there's been a lot of allegations of misuse and poor use, things like that. But this is the problem with the city. We never really get the complete answers to stuff like this, and that's where I think we need to throw the doors of City Hall.
Yeah, but the other thing is, Kevin, what we need to understand is that when you don't have a government that listen to their people or think, well, I'm in this big candy store where I can just spend away. I mean, there's money allocated for certain projects, and you have to make sure that money goes for that project. You can't just keep spending, and when the time comes to do that project, you don't have that money. That's not good government. I know you always have to borrow.
That's how they got all the money
by the name of Kevin Brookman. He'll be continuing to stay on board.
I forget where I got calls on that of where that money came from. It was out of different pots than where it was supposed to come from.
You're listening to Tony Tersey. It's Tersey Talk here on the Talk of Connecticut, AM 1360, 1470.
We've had money, federal money that was appropriated to the city back as far back as 2011
we
for
are
hiring
in
police
the stretch
officers.
Yes,
It hasn't been
and
used
where's that money? And we are losing our police officers.
Is
We
it
need
used
more
to balance our
training.
budget? That's why it's not there to hire cops? Are we using this money for our roads and streets and
We
things
the People
to plug a hole
Hartford
somewhere else
blog.
because nobody's going to notice?
WeThePeopleHartford.com. You can
And
read all
maybe
about
we'll have it back by
what
the
he
time it
writes
comes.
about.
Right, and I suppose
about
that
everything
sometimes
Hartford.
you may have to do some of those
And
things, but
he
when it's
just
become
wants to make
a habit
sure that
and a
folks
day-to-day
who are running the
business,
city,
I think that's
who've got the
wrong, and
keys
that's
to
not the
the
way you
car,
run business.
are minding their P's
But,
and Q's.
we talk about our police
many
department.
times he finds out
Look at
through
look
his
at what's
sources.
going on. We're
That,
losing this.
he's
we're
not a
losing
journalist.
this. We're
You don't
losing
have
that.
to be a
And we're
journalist to
asking,
know how to find
well,
sources.
look at what's going
Through
on in
his
our
sources, he
neighborhood
finds
with
out that
crime rising
many
and all those kind of.
times,
The fire department. Look
those
at that.
folks
All of a
who are
sudden,
running
because
the
they
city of
stop
Hartford
this training in
are
the
not
community,
minding
all of a sudden, all
their
these
P's
fire
and Q's.
popping
He's
up
good
because there's no
friends with Len
education for
Bestoff
fire anymore.
from
And it's
NBC
time for a
Connecticut.
leader of
A
the
long
fire department
time.
to say,
Used to work with my
every
dad
day
at
I've
Channel
got,
3.
180, 200
so
firefighters.
we've got
waiting
lots
for the bell
of
to
callers
ring.
who are waiting
Could
to
they
talk
maybe
to
be
Kevin
out
Brookman. By the way,
checking
coming up
buildings,
bottom of the
walking through
hour,
apartment buildings, doing
Mike
inspections?
McLaughlin,
Is that something
state
that
senator
is the
from the
chief of fire
Danbury
department?
area,
Could I
talking
use my
about
resources
campaign
a little more efficiently than what I am right
Again, that goes back to
So
union
if you have
contract, and that's
questions
why
or
I'm
comments
saying you
about
need
that,
smart
certainly
people.
after the bottom of the hour news. But
Yes,
first,
but that's what I'm saying. When
line
you have union
3.
contract,
Line
you have
3
to
is
have smart
Bob
people
in
sitting
Enfield.
around the
Yes,
table,
Bob.
making sure they're not giving away the city, making sure that people are actually doing their jobs.
But do we have to go to the unions and beg to get our
yes,
money's worth?
indeed, for
As I
sure.
said, depends on what you
especially
give
after
away in
that
that
asking them to
contract.
go out
we
there
have a
and do
town
anything
that the
dangerous or
population is
illegal.
declining.
We're asking them
The
to
enrollment has declined probably
I would think
1,000
the
students
basic role
since
of a firefighter
'98.
is
Going to
also
one high school, right?
Inspection and
We're going to
prevention.
one high school.
So we're asking you to go out and prevent
well,
during the day and inspect
partly
these
by
buildings.
necessity because
Our
both of them
rear
needed major
stairwells, are the doors
renovation.
blocked, are they
Right.
nailed shut,
But
things like that.
When I was a
you
kid,
know
the
the school
firemen
board
came
is
to
suffering
our
from severe
When I
withdrawal
first moved back to
symptoms
Hartford, they
because
did. I was
at
in my
one
yard one
time
day
the
and
school
a fire engine
population
pulls
was
up and says,
30% of the
"We're
total
out doing neighborhood
population, and
inspections. Can we walk through your building?"
and the
That's
parents
the past.
they had
That's
80% of
because
control of
everything now
schools,
Why
and
should
now
it?
Overtime, or we don't have the
running,
money for
30
overtime.
to 40%
Those are the things that's happening,
of the,
and that's why I'm saying we
of
need
the
a
say in the
strong
town.
leader that
Other
can look at
issues are
all
more
the things that's
important at this
happening and
point.
how we can do it better, and not
So what
spend
else-
more
what else is on
than
your
what
mind
we're
this morning,
actually
Bob?
getting.
Well, but
for
also,
what we
I was
actually
just
get.
reading in the Hartford Current this
efficiency of
morning.
it.
Looks like they're
when
the
they
state
were
wants
doing these
control of the
inspections
property tax
15
on the
or 20 years
cars and
ago,
take it away from the
technology,
towns,
radios weren't what
it
it
looked
it's
like
not what it is now. Now
Hartford's
every
going to be a
firefighter
big
has a radio,
loser, and
every
of course people from
officer on
Greenwich are
engine
could
has a
complain
radio
because their
where they can
property
be
taxes are going to
dispatched
go
to
up
fire
with the
from
cars.
anywhere in the city. Where back
Yeah,
then,
and you hear
they had
people
to send
feeling
the signal
sorry
to the
from those
firehouse,
from
the fire-
Greenwich.
they had to leave from the firehouse to get to the
What do you
fire.
know, Kev, about
So our
what's
technology
happening
has
with
changed, which means
the car
it
taxes
should
in
be even
Hartford?
more possible to
It's a
get them
big
out on the
problem,
streets
especially in the large
instead of
cities
sitting in
like
the firehouse.
Hartford.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying
I don't know what we would do if the tax, motor vehicle tax goes away. It's a huge part of our budget. But in Hartford, we pay,
So
just
before
rounding
we
it up, I
close
think it's
out,
78
what do you think
mils
that- what
on
do
our
you like
cars.
to hear the residents
And we wonder why
about
so many Hartford people
happening
try
and
to
what you
register in
pay
relatives'
and
homes or in other towns.
Yeah.
And that was one of the first big stories out on the blog was about a couple politicos in Hartford. They're registered down in somewhere in Fairfield County because I think it was 17 or 18 mils.
Wow.
So they were paying far less in another town. And we see it a lot now, and this is a story Len did recently, about the people that are going to Maine to register their cars in Maine to avoid property taxes.
We do have some good
Maine
stuff
is a
going on
state
in
where,
the city, but we just need,
I guess, as long as
good
you
handling
pay them, they'll
and
give you a
sure
registration.
more good stuff.
Doesn't matter where you live, and it dodges the local property taxes. But it's an issue, Yesterday, somebody had sent me an email about how a candidate for mayor has strong ties with the governor, and it'd be great if he gets elected because then we can go to the legislature for more money. But whether people realize it or not, the legislature no longer has money to give out to cities. And when I first started the blog, I did a story. We had gone to the legislature, the superintendent of schools and the Board of Education did, because they needed $3 million to balance their budget. And they claimed it was for transportation. So the legislature scraped and found the money and gave Hartford $3 million for transportation. The following week, the superintendent of schools, Adamowski, gave out $2.8 million in bonuses to Hartford school employees. And the legislature was furious over that. We gave you $3 million for transportation, and then you send $2.8 million out the back door in bonuses. Where's the sense in this? And that's the stuff that goes on. We can no longer count on the state to balance our budget. We've got to start doing it our own. The mayor needs to look at his scheduler, his communication staff, and start saying, we need to cut. We have, it's not so much we have a revenue problem with taxes. We have a spending problem that we're wasting too much money.
Line 2, a good friend of the show, John in Hartford. John, what's your question or comment for Kevin Brookman, the curator, the chief bottle washer?
That I have a lot of comments more than just questions, but I'll try.
Good morning, Jonathan.
Just a question. I think, Kevin, you focus a lot on the emphasis of city government and where city government needs to be corrected, and it contributes to a lot of problems and issues in the city. But I think even beyond city government issues, you have to look at the whole history and the reality of our urban city like Hartford comparable to many other urban cities. I don't think personally Hartford got destroyed when the Eddie Perez administration started it in the 2000s. I think he definitely contributed in a lot of areas of making things worse. But I think I talk to people who tell me the city of Hartford was really going completely in the wrong direction as far back as the 60s when you had the riots, you had businesses leaving. Then you had the George Addison administration. People felt like he was ignoring other parts of the city. I mean, if you trace the whole history of the city of Hartford, we went from the richest per capita city of the 19th century to one of the poorest cities in the country. So it's a deep combination problem, Kevin. I think the city of Hartford is dealing with, unlike, many other urban cities. But even if I'm willing to bet on a new mayor coming into the city, let's say Luke Bronin, able to address city government and make city government more efficient, you still got major problems with your educational structure. You got major problems with your job training, job hiring practices. You have a combination, Kevin, of other problems in your city that I don't know if city government or city hall can be part of the solution. And I just kind of feel like, when you have a city and the residents and city government is not on the same page, you don't have the city residents.
That's a major part of the problem, though, Jonathan, is until we start engaging our electorate and being part of the solution, nothing's going to change. Do you think the nonsense that goes on in Hartford day in and day out, do you think that would be tolerated in West Hartford or Farmington or Avon? No, they'd be storming City Hall or Town Hall saying, we're not going to accept this. We're not going to accept you hiring back the city attorney at $250 an hour or $10,000 a week. That's just not responsible and fiscally prudent. And they would be upset. They'd be up in arms about this. At Hartford, you barely get a handful of people that attend city council meetings unless there's a real hot button issue. These are the type of things we need to get our electorate involved and let our politicians know, okay, you may get elected this year, but don't count on our vote in 4 years if you're not running this city right. We're going to rebel, we're going to make change, and we're going to do things differently. That's what we need to start doing, is engaging our electorate.
That was John in Hartford. Thank you, brother, for calling in. And Irma in East Hartford. How are you, Irma?
Good morning. I have a question. Can I get back to the Roland issue for a minute?
Sure, yes. If it's related to our guest, Kevin Brookman, I would be happy to take your question.
Yes, I have a question for him.
Okay.
Now, what will 3-year incarceration cost taxpayers?
I have no idea.
No.
I know sometimes.
I'm just wondering, wouldn't it be more logical to have him do community service and pay a fine than incarcerate him?
I think the idea there is that then that's not a deterrent to him personally.
Or to others that don't want to go to prison for doing the same type of thing.
Right.
As much as prison is supposed to reform people, it's also a deterrent against others committing the same type of crimes.
Well, hardened criminals were released to save the state some money. That's the logic I'm using.
But you would think after the first time somebody would learn their lesson and not want to go back to prison.
Right.
So I think in this case it's a necessary deterrent. You can't just let them walk away and say, okay, you can still go home and watch TV every night, have your home cooking, and do answer the phone, do what you want to do. You're not going to be able to do that from a federal prison.
Yeah, but a stiff penalty, would hurt him. But no, that's all I was thinking about.
Well, I appreciate your call, Irma. That was nice of you to listen and nice of you to hang on the line and give us a call. That was Irma in East Hartford, 917 here on the Talk of Connecticut. We've extended our visit with Kevin Brookman, who is the person responsible for the We the People Hartford blog. You can find it. You can read about it. Yes, it is focused on Hartford, but perhaps in your city. Perhaps it'll give you an idea of something to do in your city to hold the city leaders to their feet to the fire. You can find what Kevin writes about on a daily basis, and he will link you to other stories many times from other sources at wethepeoplehartford.com. That's wethepeoplehartford.com or wethepeoplehartford.blogspot.com. blogspot.com. Now, for those who joined us late, Kevin, what do you do in your quote-unquote real life?
I own an alarm company. We do security systems, fire alarms, cameras, things like that. That's what hopefully pays the bills.
And what's the name of your business?
Brookman Protection Systems.
Do you have a website? Brookman Protection Systems.
BrookmanProtectionSystems.com.
Okay. And you, commercial and residential?
Yeah.
Okay. How did you get into that business? Is it a family thing, or?
No, I've always pretty much been in the security business. And then about 25 years ago, I was working for another company. Got fed up working for someone else, and I was actually in sales. So I went out and started my own business and eventually got my state license and went through the whole process and have been doing it on my own ever since.
That's interesting. Interesting that a guy who is in the alarm, the security business, seems like a natural transition that you're looking to sound the bells and whistles and alarms in the city which you love so much. That's kind of an interesting and a fitting transition.
I think that's appropriate is the love for the city, because I remember, my grandmother used to live up in Windsor, and Saturday morning she worked at the Travelers in the cafeteria, and Saturday morning it would take the city bus into Hartford. Downtown would be thriving. She had a few friends down there that ran businesses downtown.
Going to G. Fox was a big thing for people from the burbs.
Yeah, G. Fox, the Connecticut Room, over to Sage Allen to the bakery, and then all the stores. And she had one that was like a 5 and dime on Church Street. And I remember it was an Asian woman, and we would go there, go in the back room, sit down, have tea, things like that. Wow. And she always had Mexican jumping beans. Which were just always amazed me watching the jar just moving in there. But that's back when Hartford was in its heyday. You'd come down at Christmas, and all the storefronts would have the animated characters. You'd go up to Constitution Plaza. You'd go up to the 11th floor, I think, at G. Fox, to Santa Claus in the Winter Village and everything.
Seeing Santa Claus come down the day after Thanksgiving on Constitution Plaza, I mean, that was a family thing we did.
Yeah, and the last time I remember seeing that was taking my nephews in there during Mayor Mike's era. And I think it was his last year in office. But that's, when you think about the movie theaters we used to have downtown, there's no reason we can't get back to that. People say, the malls have ruined that. People don't go into downtown anymore. Well, they would if you gave them something to come downtown for.
Right.
And I think that's what we need, is the vision and the leadership to make those things happen.
Ultimately, the baseball stadium, is that ultimately going to be a good thing or not?
I'm hoping. I think history is the only thing that's going to prove to us whether it is or not.
Yeah.
I don't see it being the jobs mechanism that everybody talks about. It's seasonal. It's, I don't know, what was it, 70 games a year? So I don't see it as, there may be jobs, but there's not going to be careers. There's not going to be careers that people can raise their families on, send children to college. Those are the jobs we need in Hartford. And those are the jobs, unfortunately, that are moving to the suburbs. We just saw UTC take a few hundred jobs from Hartford to Farmington.
The Gold Building?
Yeah, and those are the things we need to be, making sure that happens. Luckily, the governor had the vision to make sure they're still going to be in Hartford. So at least we're not seeing jobs go to South Carolina or something. But I would much rather see those jobs still in Hartford because, there's the whole fallout effect. Those are jobs of people that are using the dry cleaners downtown, going to lunch downtown, hopefully using insurance agencies and things like that they can run out to at lunch. Those are also jobs that we lose when we start losing these jobs to the suburbs. So we need another cheerleader. We need somebody that knows how to work with the business community and grow these jobs and bring people back here.
I want to take another call. We're on line 3 this morning from the lovely town of Goshen near Torrington. Joanne. Good morning, Joanne.
Hi there. Molly, this man, back in the 80s, I was in a tax group. I got on the Fair Rent Commission. I was the one with children in my schools. And for 6 years, I spoke before meetings, and did I lambaste those people what this man is doing? I mean, I just in the Fair Rent, I'll give you an example. When I was in the Fair Rent, they were spending maybe $2,500 for the year. And when budget came around, they wanted $18,000 more. And remember I called you about zero-based taxing, base budgets?
Yes.
And that's when I started to see how they were wasting money. They weren't figuring what they spent. They were tacking on just more money. That's what the school, when I was in the tax group, and I used to speak before the educational school system, and what they were doing, they were tacking on at budget time, asking for $6 million. And through the 6 years that I was in the tax group, they wound up with $3 million more. They always put it higher because they knew they wanted to at least get half as that much. The system is broken. And what is wrong, I feel, as a female, and I was this person that had 3 children with a husband that left me because I didn't want a man that scared the hell out of me in my life and my children, and he quit his job so I could get nothing. So I didn't have much support at this time, and I got in the tax group. And you know what? One of the final things after 6 years, I kept 15 years of records of the school system. And what I found in my records, now this was not my records, this is what I got off the budgets and everything. And also, luckily, I got the blueprints of every school in Danbury, Connecticut. That's where I was at that time. So I knew how many students we could hold in the school system. In 15 years, they went from 11,000 population down to 8,000. When I started keeping the salaries, because we know it is the salaries that cost the most. Well, I found out that they had not less teachers, they had 30 more teachers in the school system with 3,000 less students. And you know where it was?
Where?
Remedial. They stuck those 30 teachers that they kept building up with the union. They didn't want to give up these teaching positions with 3,000 less students.
Joanne from Goshen. She's one of the folks from outside of Hartford who's doing, it appears, some of the work that Kevin Brookman has in the big city here in Hartford. We're going to take one more call for our guest, the curator of the We the People Hartford blog, Elizabeth in Windsor. You're on. Good morning.
Good morning. This is Elizabeth from Windsor. One comment.
Yes.
The Hartford Courant doesn't act as though there was a town of Windsor. In the past, and my late husband, we were very, very active in Windsor. I'm still a little active. I get the Hartford Courant Thursday through Sunday, and then I get the Journal Enquirer every day.
Okay.
If you want the Windsor News, take the Journal Enquirer. If you want the obituary, take the Hartford Courant.
Okay.
There is very, very little news gets in the Hartford Courant about Windsor.
That's Elizabeth from Windsor with circulation advice this morning. Thank you, dear, for calling in. I appreciate that. 9:27 here on a Saturday morning. Coming up after the bottom of the hour, Mike McLaughlin, state senator, Republican from the Danbury area. He's going to be talking about something to do with the state election reforms that took effect back in 2005 after the Rowland scandal, after former Governor John Rowland went to prison the first time. Next time he goes to prison will be, I want to say it's June 16th, and he's scheduled to head over to New York, near Middletown, New York, a prison there. Kevin Brookman, before you go, any final thoughts?
I just want to, we are a great city. We've got great employees working day in and day out for the people of Hartford. Just with some proper leadership, we can start moving back more. It's not as bad as it seems. There is corruption. There are problems. But if we keep an eye on it, we can change that.
And you are a man who's keeping his eye on it. And I'm sure all of the citizens of Hartford very much appreciate that. Now, if somebody wants to get in touch with you, do you have a spot on your blog where people can email you?
They can on the blog. You can make comments. Okay. A lot of times, I'll get people make comments, say, "Please do not publish this," and then give me details about something. My phone number and my email are all on the blog. So if somebody wants to call me, everything is confidential. Okay. You're not named on there or whatever. So if you want to get in touch with me or you have something to talk about, feel free to give me a call.
And do you thank Len Bestoff to this day for making the suggestion to you to start this blog? Not only to protect yourself, but...
I know he's listening now, so I don't want to be too mean, but some days I wonder, did he do me a favor or not? But yes, it's definitely made a change. I know there's positive things happening in Hartford because of the blog that wouldn't have happened otherwise. So, Len is somebody that taught me how to do it right, and I really appreciate that. Nice. Verifying sources, making sure you get your objective to people and what you do, and give them the benefit of the doubt. And, I owe that to Len. So
before we go, do you have conversations with Pedro Segarra? Do you have conversations with Sandra Key Borges?
I haven't talked to Pedro in years.
Okay. Can you give your phone number? Would you mind giving it on the air?
My cell phone is 860-883-2297. That's 860-883-2297. I have it with me almost all the time. So if anybody wants to give me a call, it's there.
Kevin Brookman, We the People Hartford. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for the opportunity.
You bet.
You're listening to Tony Tersey. It's Tersey Talk here on the Talk of Connecticut. AM 1360, 1470, 610, and 1240.